This is a question about one of the problems on the skills review quiz for Math 1830. And a couple of people have asked about this problem. I think primarily because it involves a piecewise function, and even though you may have seen piecewise functions before, it's probably been a long time ago, and it is not something that you would necessarily remember a lot about. So we'll go over this one, and any other questions that you have, please do send those to me, and I'll make a recording like this one to help you get through the skills review. So here we have a function where the function is defined by the rule 2x plus 2 divided by the quantity of x minus 9. And that's as long as x does not equal 9. And hopefully you understand that the reason that that function cannot equal 9 is because in the denominator of that function, x being 9 would cause us to have 2 times 9 plus 2 over 9 minus 9. And 9 minus 9 is, of course, division by 0, which we are not allowed to do. So when it comes time for x to be 9, then we just simply declare that the function is equal to 6. So there's really two rules. And when x is equal to 9, the value of the function is 6. So the first thing they ask us to do is to find, for part A, they want us to find f of 9. And by this rule, x is equal to 9, then f of 9 is equal to 6. Now, part B then asks us to find f of negative 1/2, which simply means that we follow the other part of the rule, because now x is not 9, and we plug in 1/2, 2 times negative 1/2 plus 2 divided by negative 1/2 minus 9. And since 2 times negative 1/2, you can check this on your calculator, 2 times negative 1/2 is negative 1 plus 2. Then the numerator of the function is going to be 1. The denominator, on the other hand, is going to be negative 9 and 1/2. But because negative 9 and 1/2 under a 1 looks, let's admit it, kind of strange, then we're going to have to perform a little magic on this. So negative 9 and 1/2, if you remember the way that you convert this to an improper fraction, negative 9 times 2 plus 1 over 2 will give us negative 9 times 2 is negative 18. Negative 18 plus 1 is 17 over 2. And, of course, that's negative 17 over 2. So what we have is 1 divided by the fraction, negative 17 over 2. And, of course, that doesn't look very good either. So what we want to do is we want to actually simplify that. So in our final step to simplify that, and this is, again, something you may not have done in a while, 1 divided by negative 17 over 2, which is what that fraction says, is the same thing as 1 multiplied by negative 2 over 17. So therefore, our final answer is that f of negative 1/2 is equal to negative 2 over 17. And of course, you could have done all that arithmetic on your calculator had it give you the final answer as a fraction, and this is the answer that it would have given you. So it would have been fine to use your calculator to do that too. Just be careful using your parentheses. Now, part C says that we are to find f of a. Well, f of a is actually pretty easy, except that this is a piecewise function. So for f of a, we're going to have to still have a piecewise function, and it's going to be 2 times a plus 2 divided by a minus 9, as long as, as long as x, or I'm sorry, not x, a is not equal to 9, of course, for the same reason that x couldn't be 9. And if a is 9, then the value of the function is 6. So here we have the answer to part C. So part A, f of 9 is equal to 6. Part B, f of negative 1/2 is equal to negative 2 over 17. Part C, f of a is equal to the same function as f of x, replacing x with a. And now we're ready to look at part D. And part D says find f of 2 over m. So to find f of 2 over m, we're again going to replace the variable with 2 over m. And since we're assuming that 2 over m is not equal to 9, it's again going to follow the first rule, 2 times 2 over m plus 2 divided by 2 over m minus 9 if m does not equal, let's see, what would cause 2 over m to be equal to 9? If m were 2 over 9, because 2 divided by 2 over 9 is 2 times 9 over 2, which would be 9. So as long as m is not equal to 2 over 9. And if m is equal to 2 over 9, then again the value of the function is going to be 6. So all you're doing is replacing whatever the variable is with whatever the new expression is that we've been given. So now let's move on to the last part, which is part E. And part E asks us to find any values such that of x such that f of x would equal to 1. So let's look at what f of x is again. F of x is equal to 2x plus 2 over x minus 9 if x does not equal 9. And it's equal to 6 if x is equal to 9. And we're trying to find where is f of x, in other words, what value of x is equal to 1. Well, f of x is equal to 6 if x equals 9. So obviously, that part of the rule isn't going to help us with this because the function value is 6. It's not 1. So that means that x has to be something other than 9. And that means that we'll be using this rule because we're looking for a value of the function where that function value, which would be following the rule 2x plus 2, is equal to 1. So that means we're going to take 2x plus 2 over x minus 9, and we're going to set that equal to 1. And what that means then is that if we multiply both sides by the least common denominator, which is x minus 9, which will eliminate the fraction on one side, because that x minus 9 will get rid of that one, then the expression that we have now is 2x plus 2 is equal to 1 times x minus 9, or simply x minus 9. And that leads us, if we subtract x from both sides, and we subtract 2 from both sides, eliminating x on this side and 2 on this side, then that gives us that, let's see, 2x minus x is x, and negative 9 minus 2 is negative 11. So the values for which f of x is equal to 1 would be when x is equal to negative 11. Now, the function that you had in the quiz might be somewhat different. The definition may be somewhat different, but this is the correct process to follow for that problem. If you have other questions, again, please don't hesitate to let me know what they are. I'll be glad to help you review those prerequisite skills. But I don't want to go over the problems that you don't need help with.